Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast, is in no way affiliated with the band. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are solely the speaker's own.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time to turn it on whenever you can. Turn it on, you know that you can. We've got Windman with many faces and many names. We've got Mikey with his good graces and his love games. We got Bob C with his bases, though his jokes are lame. But it's time to turn it on.
Welcome to Turn It On, the Level 42 fan podcast. We are here with our typical trio from here in the U.S., here to talk the time away with all things Level 42. I'm Bob Considine, here with the convivial Mr. Mikey Payne. Hello, Mikey.
Hello, what the hell was that?
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
All right.
And then Mr. Winston M. Walker, Windman with many faces and many names. Win, hello, how are you?
Hey guys, I don't know why I'm waving. No one's going to see me.
All right, still. Guys, before we get to our very esteemed guest, we should note, as you're hearing in the background right now, to our podcast faithful, that yes, you are correct. This is a new podcast theme song playing to start the show. And you were also correct in understanding that this is the greatest thing you've ever heard. So we hope you're enjoying it. And if we take a vote and people like the old one better, we'll just go back to that one. All right, now to the important stuff. We really, as I said before, we have such an awesome, amazing guest here today. Everyone here knows John Thirkell for as many years with Level 42, both with the touring band in the late 80s and early 90s, but also his contributions to the Guaranteed and Forever Now records. But this is also a musician who's put a huge stamp on popular music, both in that era and even more recently. His CV includes live and recorded performances with Jamiroquai, Swing Out Sister, Lisa Stansfield, Rod Stewart, George Michael, Phil Collins, Eric Clapton, Kylie Minogue, Cher, Tina Turner, Pet Shop Boys, the Buddy Rich Band, which I have a question about right off the top, and more modern, BTS. Very possibly he played on Uptown Funk, right? Bruno Mars. We'll get to that. And he even had he was on a number one record last year in the UK with Snow Patrol, his 38th appearance on a number one record. And at one point, we were talking about this in pre-production, that John Thirkell has been on he was at one time on one album in the UK charts for 13 straight years, which is just ungodly. It's almost as old as I am. But more than that, he's just a great musician, and it's an honor to have him. John Thirkell, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys.
So,
Thank you.
It's funny. On some sites, you're John. Some sites, you're Johnny. And I always feel like Johnny, you have to know somebody before you talk. You got to call him Johnny. So,
yeah.
What do you prefer?
Look. By and large, in the wild, I don't really mind either way. At home, when my wife calls me John, then I'm heading for the hills. Right, I'm behind the nearest large object. I know I'm in trouble when I get called John. But by and large, as a young man, my father was Johnny, and my grandfather was Johnny too, and my son is Johnny, my eldest son. Okay. But as a young man, I hated the name Johnny. It has certain connotations which a young man doesn't really want hanging around his neck. Right? But as I got older, I cared less and less. So it doesn't matter. Johnny is largely what people call me these days. Johnny.
All right. So if either of us go from left to right, it's okay. It's not going to matter to you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So John, the one thing I wanted to ask before we get on to the Level 42 stuff in your career, my summer reading this year was by a book by the name of Steve Lukather. who
Okay.
so Steve is the guitarist in Toto, and he is a session guy, much like you've been, almost the same amount of recordings. And what I took away from that book as a session guy is he thought it was really, really cool to do this for a career. And then eventually he didn't want to do it because artistically it wasn't enough for him. He wanted, he wanted to put his working. You were not the boss in most cases. So for you, how has that balance been in your career, both as a creative person and a technician? Where is the balance for you in being a session guy?
This is a really easy question for me. I've always, from the age of about, when I first kind of floated the idea of doing this for a living, I always wanted to be a studio player, nothing else. For me, it is the pinnacle of musicianship in my mind.
Right.
I turned up at a session. I'm booked for a session at 10 o'clock in the morning. I have no idea what kind of music it is. I don't know who the artist is. It might not be. It may be a film. I know it's a film because the rate is different, right? For me, that's what I loved about my life as a musician. Is this just every day is different? Sometimes twice a day. Sometimes you're doing a classical thing in the morning or kind of pseudo classical, and then like a rock band in the afternoon. And that for me is the real challenge. And unlike Steve Lukather, that's enough for me. Mm-hmm. That's enough. I love the idea of doing a good job. That's really what turns me on. That's what I love. I'm faced with a challenge, and I like to overcome that challenge. So I never ever wanted to be an artist or up the front.
I was even saying, if I use the word session musician, is that like an offensive term? It should be just a studio musician, right? I mean,
I guess I've always used session musician or studio musician. That's either doesn't. In some circles, it became sort of a pejorative term, really. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They almost made it.
Right,
This idea they're not quite good enough to be up the front. I don't want to. I'm happy being the chubby little bloke up the back, blowing down a tube. That suits me down to the ground. Right. I get all the traveling and the nice hotels, and people don't bother me in the street.
Yeah. And by the way, cool. One more thing about Lukather, not to make this, I'm not the biggest Toto fan. I just thought his book was fascinating. I went to do a search to see if there was, out of his 6,000 recordings and your 6,000 recordings, you were ever on the same song. I couldn't find it.
Okay.
You were on the same album, which was Radio Chaos from Roger Waters.
Yeah, not my finest moment. I mean, Roger Waters is a lovely guy, but that album, I don't get that at all. Yeah.
Okay, all right, yeah. You guys go. I've cleared. Yeah.
I find it weird that people would have a strange thing about a session musician like they didn't make it, because when you look at albums, you're like, well, if you've been on 6,000 albums, people want you. So to me, that is like, I can remember growing up and buying records. I didn't know the artist. I flipped this album over. I'm like, oh, they got this guy on bass, this guy on guitar that I know. This is probably going to be good, and I would buy it based on who was playing on the album. So for me, that's like would be a big selling point. So
yeah, I mean, I guess. Yeah, in some circles it is, and I think it's largely extra musical circle, outside of the musical. If you're in the music industry or you're a big music fan, well, then that's one thing. But it just casually, when you talk to people, you go to a dinner party and you talk to an accountant or something like that, look, like, it's not a big deal for me. I'm okay. It doesn't matter. I'm not offended. Some people are offended by that. Some people hate the idea. It's whatever, I mean, I've led the most charmed life. What have I got to complain about, right?
Is it harder, like, if you're doing a session that's a live session, like you're going to do a one-off show? Is that harder because now you got the audience?
Yeah, and you also you've got no opportunity to go back and fix something, right? If you especially on the trumpet, right? The thing about the trumpet, and I think this is why often trumpet players are alpha That's the kindest thing I can come up with, right? They're hard drinking, no nonsense guys. Is because you make a mistake on the trumpet and the world and its dog hears it. You're right.
Yeah.
You're sitting on the second desk violins and you make a mistake, and it sort of goes unnoticed. Somewhat. Not that I've got anything against second desk violinists, of course. He said, covering his ass. Yeah.
Was there ever if I asked what was the hardest session you ever had, did just one come to mind, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, there was a song which I did with for Spandau Ballet, and the name of which escapes me.
I got it here, but keep going. I'll look it up.
Okay, good man.
Yeah.
No, I like a man who's done his research, right?
Oh yeah, no. This is
mainly because it means I'd have to do it. So yeah, there was a tune, Spandau Ballet, and it was something like, I think Gary Barnacle started out the arrangement, and then it progressed on the session. You always adding bits on and changing bits and so on and so on. But I never ever really. It was hard on the session, but I mean that's fine. That's your job. When you come to have to play it live, that's when you start to regret what was I thinking, right? So it's one thing suggesting to play something really intricate and high. I never ever expected to have to play it live, and of course we did. We did a Princess Trust show with them.
Yeah, I remember. That was, I think it was '89, maybe. I don't know. You did so many Princess Trust shows. It's hard to keep them track.
Yeah, I think we started those in about '86 was the first one I did. Right. That might have been my first sort of interface with Mark, I think. Right?
Yeah.
86.
Oh yeah. Right. And by the way, this. Right. The song might have been "Be Free with Your Love."
Be Free with Your Love. That's exactly what the song is. Right. And there's a kind of a brass break in there, which only a madman would write.
Right.
There we go. It was late and we'd been drinking. Maybe I don't know. I don't.
and I'm gonna ask one more thing, and I'll toss it to Mike about your session work and whatever. You have to tell these guys the story of you had to do a jingle session, and somebody who was hiring you wanted a specific sound, but you told him you could not give it to him. Can you tell those guys the story? I love the story.
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of jingle session stories, but I think what the story to which you are alluding is no names, no pack drill, because the guy's a really nice guy,
right? Drives a Porsche.
But anyway, drives a Porsche. Yeah. No, there's the giveaway. There aren't so many musicians you're going to know exactly who I'm talking about. No, I got a call one afternoon to say, "Hey, Johnny, what are you up to? Can you? I need some trumpet. Can you whiz down into London now? It's really urgent. It's a pitch for a jingle, and we got to get it finished by like 4 o'clock or whatever." Yeah, so sure. I'll jump in the car. I'll be there in an hour. So I go into town, go to the session, and often they'll play you like a reference song. This is the kind of sound we're after. So he puts on the track, and I listened to it, and I said, I can't. I can't do it. I can't sound like that. And the guys, "Oh, come on, stop it." Seriously, I can't. I just can't do it. He said, "Look, you and I've been working together for 10 years, and you've never ever not been able to deliver what I want. What do you mean you can't do it?" And I said, "Because it's a saxophone."
Oh my God.
Okay.
I love that story.
And of course, as Bob said, this is a guy who's done very, very well out of that world, drives a Porsche and lives in a very swanky part of town.
I was going to say, what was his reaction?
Some people have confidence, beyond their abilities, right? And I'm sure he styled out. Look, he's a really nice guy, and I feel guilty, but not that guilty that I don't tell the story.
It's funny. It's a funny story.
I had a similar on another jingle. At first, I thought you were talking about the story where I was hired to do an advert for Benson and Hedges cigarettes.
No.
Do they sell those in the US?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's a big brand of cigarettes here, and it's in like a golden pack.
Mhm.
And I spent hours. It was like 4-bar phrase, the easiest phrase you could possibly need to play. And I played it this way. The guy the advertising agency, it's not quite right. Can you try something else? Do it this way? No, not quite. Do it that way. But and I tried it on the flugelhorn. I tried it with a tin mute and a cup mute, and trying everything. It's just not quite right. And then he has a eureka moment. He jumps up. He said, "I know what it is. It's not golden enough." Right, with the cigarette package. He said, "Do you have a golden trumpet?" Yeah.
That's funny.
I said, "Well, I do, but it's at home. It's like can we send a bike to go and get it?" So they sent a bike all the way to my house out there to pick up this trumpet. While I sit in the studio drinking tea with a meter running. And I come back and they get this trumpet out, which was like a rotten. It was like a beat up. This thing I used to use for videos or so, you know what I mean? Just because it looked nicer than my regular one.
Right.
I played it exactly the same way I played it the first time. That's it. I've got it. That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. That's what we're dealing with, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's funny.
And some guys, you're like, you probably can't even tell the difference. Like if you play it 3 or 4 different times.
Absolutely not. I mean, absolutely not. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But there's an element of self-justification, right? There's
Control.
that BMW needs to be justified somehow. So I'm coming across as really, really cynical. I'm sorry. I'm not.
No.
like this at all.
I don't think so.
No. No.
I think everyone that's worked a job has had that sort of experience with every part of the world they live.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Well, at least they didn't want a golden saxophone in that one.
That's true.
They
Right? Be
wanted a
thankful
golden
for small
trumpet.
mercies.
Yeah.
Be thankful for small mercies, Mikey.
Speaking of trumpets, doing the research on you, John, 6,000 plus songs. That's just incredible. Incredible. Your last number one song effort was 2024 last year.
Snow Patrol, yeah.
Yeah. I personally rank, there's been some great trumpet players. Doc Severinsen, Louis Armstrong, Dizzy Gillespie, Clifford Brown, Chet Baker. I think John Thirkell is on that list as far as caliber of trumpet players.
Yeah, Mikey, that's very, very, very kind. But I would posit that I'm not fit to clean their boots, really.
Oh,
Really and truly. Look, I think there's a danger that we confuse. Quantity with quality, right? I've played on 6,000 tracks. I know how to get along with people, and I've got quite a few jokes up my sleeve. And there are harder people to work with. It doesn't make me the greatest trumpet player in the world. And you know what I mean. I appreciate the nod, but the guy who I consider the greatest is the guy called Jerry Hay. He may even watch this podcast, but I mean, I'm so grateful to have become friends with Jerry. Over the last through the wonders of Facebook and social media generally. And in fact, whenever I go to Los Angeles, I'll take a lesson from Jerry. And he is the real king of I'm the sort of pound shop Jerry. Hey, he is the real article. I mean, you look at those things he's played on. Okay, Toto, you were talking about earlier, and all of those Michael Jackson albums and everything that Quincy Jones did, and I mean that is the sort of standard I've worked towards my entire life. He's been my idol since I was about 18, and he's not that much older than me,
Right?
But so that's how prolific he was as a young man. But just those guys, Jerry Hay and Gary Grant and Chuck Findlay and Wayne Bergeron. Those, I mean, they are real. In fact, I had the absolute joy of doing a session for Jerry, with Wayne Bergeron. We were the two trumpets, and that was like one of the highlights of my career. They're the real.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll start eulogizing now for the rest of the podcast if you let me.
No, it wasn't a sycophantic comment either. I mean,
No, I didn't take it that way.
No. As far as listening to some of your work, you hear some songs, and there's trumpet in it, and there's sax in it, there's some brass in it. I felt, and maybe I'm biased, being a big Level 42 fan is how I became aware of you, John. Your trumpet work is very exquisite and very noticeable, and and Mark King has his bass sound. John Thirkell, I think, has his trumpet sound. I think in some tunes it's very distinctive. My question was, what drew you to the trumpet?
Okay. Well, what actually, I mean, it literally drew me to the trumpet was I was about 14, quite a late starter. And I was sitting in double maths at school. And I noticed that every Thursday, this kid, a couple of rows in front of me, he got up like half an hour before the end of the lesson and just strolled out of the classroom. Hang on a second, what's that about? So I called this guy, his name's Ken Brown. And I called Brownie in the playground. And I said, "Hey, Brownie, what's going on there then?" And he said, "Oh, I'm in the school band. So I leave half an hour early because we practice during lunch hour. So I leave early to help set up the stuff. Crikey, where do I sign? Now count me in for that."
Yeah.
And so so I started at. That's how I started at school. Incidentally, Ken Brown went on to be the assistant principal trumpet at the Halle, a very famous orchestra here in the UK. So, and of course, I'm from the Northeast originally, and like there's a brass band on every street corner. So I developed there through the brass band, I played with a band called Easington Colliery Band, and in fact, when I left school, I went to work at the pit at the coal mine, and took me about 10 minutes to work out I'm not doing that for the rest of my life. You can forget.
Right.
Oh God.
Right.
So I went to night school and got some qualifications, and I went to the City of Leeds College of Music, which is where it all started.
Wow.
That's where I switched from the cornet to the trumpet now.
I've never talked to somebody who's actually worked in a coal mine. It must be like scary as can be being down there.
Yeah, look, I mean, I guess romantically, it's
Right.
we weren't kind of crawling on our elbows digging out coal.
Yeah.
This is the modern. But look, it's not a great gig, right? And I touring the world with Level 42 or somebody else is damn sight easier, right? It's a step upwards for sure. So there you go. I was only a couple of years. I wasn't there for a long time, but just long enough to get enough qualifications to get out there and get to college.
Brill.
So there's some a whole bunch of great players were at college at the same time as me. I mean, the names may not mean that much, but I'm very good friends with a guy called Snake Davis, who he and I worked together a lot. Snake was.
You got the trio.
Yeah, that's right. We have a trio. But Snake is a sax player with M People and Lisa Stansfield and all, like a glittering, illustrious career. There are a whole bunch of guys came out of Leeds at that period who went on to do quite well in London.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of Jerry Hay, I started when I was younger. Graduated school. I started getting into jazz fusion, so I became aware of the band Seawind.
Oh, yes.
Jerry Hay played with great stuff. And I noticed that you played, I love the stuff that you've done with Swing Out Sister. And I think Kaleidoscope World album, you're on that with Jerry Hay and some other folks, Gary Grant. So was that remote session or did you guys actually?
Yeah, I think we're on that album, but on different tunes, sadly.
Gotcha.
Well, not sadly. I mean, it's always great to hear Jerry's arrangements. But yeah, in that instance, and then that happens quite a lot. I think, was not was. There's a was not was album that Jerry and I are both on, but
right.
Never. We did them. Some were done in London, some were done over in LA. It's kind of. I think there was a period where bands would trip around. And look, also I know, for example, Lisa Stansfield, somebody I've played with Lisa for 35 years probably, still playing with her. We have a gig in about 2 weeks' time.
Amazing.
In a festival. And so Ian, her husband, who's the keyboard player in the band and her co-songwriter, has also played the trombone. And of course, when the first went all around the world, that big record of Lisa's, when that was like a huge hit, then they were, that's it, we're off to LA, right? It's Jerry Hay time. Right. All of a sudden they've got Jerry Hay budgets, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's like, I think. So yeah, there are a lot of instances I think where Jerry and I are playing on the same record, but trust me, you can tell who's who.
Well, it's funny you bring up Breakout by Swing Out Sister, because that's such a when I think of that song, all I hear is about the horn. All I think about is the horns. I mean, nothing against
Mm,
Corinne the singer at all, but
mm,
it's such a stamp. Was
mm.
that when you talk about the John Thirkell catalog? Is that one of your most recognizable recordings? Do you think in terms of horn? You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, I think possibly that, or Walking on Sunshine,
oh, that's a big, of
Mm.
course. Of
yeah,
course.
yeah, or yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are others, but yes, I would say, so. I would, yeah. The one people usually quote to me is "Slave to the Rhythm." That's the one that most people say, "Oh, I can't believe you
Grace
played on that record,"
Jones.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think "Breakout" is probably the most, probably one of the most recognizable. And I'm still playing with Swing Out Sister. We're still working,
Yeah.
and I have to tell you, and I make no bones about this, they are the sweetest, nicest, kindest,
Hmm.
funniest people you could ever meet. And I've largely retired from touring now. I do some little short tours with that trio that you were talking about with Snake Davis.
Yep.
But the only touring that I'm 100% up for these days is Swing Out Sister. It's just, they're such lovely people. And I love the music too, right? It's
Yeah.
such class music. That arrangement for Breakout was by the great Richard Niles. He did the horn
Oh,
arrangement
okay.
for that.
Is he?
Um,
He's a guitar player, though, isn't he?
I mean, he plays the guitar, yeah, but
Okay.
primarily there was a period. He's a good guitarist too,
Yeah.
but there was a period, sort of early '80s, right up until the mid '90s, where like Richard was the go-to guy. If
Right.
if you wanted string or horn arrangements, like Richard was the guy. And there's, I
Mhm.
mean, like, I lost count of the. I mean, he must have paid for half of my house, Richard. Don't tell him that. But he's back. He left London. He's back at he's back in Los Angeles now and working out there. And actually, occasionally he does drag me out there to not drag me, but just you have to drag me to Los Angeles, that's for sure. But he'll every now and then, he'll have me out there to go to do a session for him. I mean, he's knee deep in amazing trumpet players in Los Angeles, but I think he likes to see his old friends.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a weird question. Did you ever play New York with Swing Out?
I didn't know. There was a
Okay.
period. There was a period. I think the band may have played in New York, but there was a period when I had to make a choice, and I think I was out with Jamiroquai at the time, and somehow, I mean, I would always look. I enjoyed doing Jamiroquai, but if given the choice, I would have chosen the Swing Out Sister. But I'm not sure, and it's lost in the mists of time. Really, I'm not sure.
I was telling the guys when I lived in Manhattan and then I left the East Coast for the West Coast. The last live show I saw, like a week before I left, was Swing Out Sister. It was
Okay.
a great show, but it's sort of a blur of who was in the band. And I know I got to meet Corinne afterwards and get a picture, so I was just curious.
She isn't she the sweetest person
She
you've
is
ever met?
awesome.
We did a little gig with our trio up in Leith. Was it Leith? Louth, not Leith, Louth. Close. It's nearby. It's only
It's crazy.
it's only a couple of syllables away. And Corinne is from she's from Louth originally, and she came up and did a couple of tunes with us, which was really lovely. A little kind of tiny little jazz club
Right,
somewhere.
yeah.
It was really lovely. Also, Winston, there was a period, I think, where the financial necessity was that they didn't have any horns.
Right. It probably didn't, but
Yeah, they did tour for a while without any horns at all. In fact, now the last tour we did in Japan, I think last year it was, they're down to one horn.
Yeah.
Me.
It's funny. On that, like we're all trying to get Level 42 to come here next year for the 40th anniversary of the World Machine album here in the States. They haven't been here since 2010. But
Right.
they got a 3-piece horn section now. To expect them to come, 7 pieces, it's expensive. So I don't know.
It is expensive. It is expensive. But don't they sound great?
Oh my
my
God.
Lord.
Oh,
band
yeah.
sounded amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And they're really nice. I know those guys too, Nickel and Sean. They're really great players, And band
Yes,
is
they
sounding
are.
amazing. Yeah.
so
And they've got
speaking
some
of-
great material to get their teeth into too, right? Some great. Level 42 was one of the, I think, hardest touring gigs that I've ever done, and I've done a lot. I've done a lot over the years, right? But it was hard insofar as that there were quite complicated lines, and Mark made maximum use of the horns, right? He made, there was no standing around dancing from side to side, right? You're here,
Yeah.
let's put you to work, sort of thing. But also, Mark holds himself to such a high standard, and it holds everyone to such a high standard that you really, if you're on your if you've got any sense, you'll make sure you don't make a mistake. I think I always remember. So Mark, I'm sure you guys are the same. How on earth does he play that sort of complicated bass stuff and sing at the same time, right? It's that in itself. Yeah, absolutely.
He does.
And that in itself is quite amazing, right? But, I always remember, if you made the tiniest little glitch, right? We're playing along, we take like a tiny little glitch. He'd continue playing the bass, singing along, and he'd just kind of glance over his shoulder like this, just to let you know.
Right.
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I mean, I know Gary Barnacle. You've worked with Gary quite a bit.
A lot,
He,
yeah.
he played very, very early 80s with Level 42. How did you get connected with the band? Was it through Gary or?
It was absolutely through Gary. I mean, again, Gary was another great benefactor of mine. He's very well ensconced in the music. Gary Barnacle is the kind of guy you meet it within 30 seconds. You think, what a great bloke. He's just He's just very funny, really witty, very dry. He's just such a great guy. Sadly, I've kind of lost contact with him for whatever reason,
Right.
which is very sad. I do miss him, but Gary booked me for a session one time, and we got along. We got along well. That's one of the primary requisites of being a studio musician or a musician in general, right? Don't be a dick. Really, really true. A young musician asks me for advice. That's what I tell them. Don't be a dick. Just get along with people, right? Read the room. So anyway, so Gary and I got along well, and we started to work together a lot. And then this thing, the Phantom Horns, came about, which was, we sort of, I'm quite, Gary is a great. He knows how to work a room, right? He's a great networker, incredible networker.
Right.
And I'm quite dull, and I like the organizational stuff, right? You know what I mean? Like a spreadsheet, I'm in heaven.
Right.
And so, Phantom Horns came out of that idea that if we, rather than the sort of randomness of booking a bunch of guys for a session, let's form a horn section, right? Who we play together all the time. It was with Gary, myself, and Peter Toms. We play together a lot, and you kind of get used to working, and there's this kind of synergy that builds up out of that. And that was the idea behind that. And so Gary's a great sort of a great networker, because he is just he's so funny. He's the funniest guy ever. Really funny. Always got a very dry comment at exactly the right time.
I love the story you told about Gary in one of your blogs like 5 years ago about the gig he almost missed going from
Lord.
From
My
I remember that. I remember reading
this is the
that.
best story ever, because you're the one that has to deal with kind of the wrath, because I can't even imagine what that phone call was like with Mark.
Oh my Lord! No, well, I had to go to his hotel room.
Is that what it was? Okay,
sure. I'm happy to tell the story.
Yeah, please do. I love the story.
Well, so Gary and I, we used to work a lot. We'd be on tour with the band, and we'd kind of squash in recording sessions here, there, and everywhere. And we were playing up in Scandinavia somewhere. I don't remember exactly where. And then we had a night off, and then the next gig was in Kiel in northern Germany. So Gary had organised a session at a Peter Gabriel's studio out near Bath.
That, by the way, that session, it might be the oddest group name you've ever done. Kissing the Pink, which it's either snooker or something else. But I digress. So.
Yeah, it's best not to delve too deeply into that. No, who knows? But anyway, so Roger, the tour manager, said, "Okay, guys, here are your flight tickets. I just want to tell you, there is one flight only per day to Kiel from London. Do not miss it. And Gary said, yeah, fine, Roger, we'll be fine. We're grown-ups, we're big boys, sort of thing. So we get to, so anyway, we go fly on, we do the session. It's time to fly back to Kiel on the day of the gig. And I got to the airport, no sign of Gary. That's nothing unusual there. His timing is like he will come right under the wire all the time. So I get on the plane, still no sign of Gary, and I'm not too perturbed, really. I just know he's going to be the last one on the plane. And then I felt my chair sort of rock like this, and I thought, oh my God, that's the plane. It's pushing off. God, Mark's going to go mental. Mark's going to go.
Mark's big thing is you got to be at sound check.
Absolutely. Yeah, Mark said, look, I don't care what you guys do. You can, so long as you are there at the sound check, that's fine. Which is actually quite generous of him. A lot of people don't like you leaving the compound,
Right.
But no, so long as that was the rule. So long as you're there, then that's fine. If you're going to miss the sound check, don't bother coming. Right. So I'm sitting on the plane. Oh my gosh. So we land in Kiel. Roger, the tour manager, is there to pick us up. And he said, listen, I'm parked really dodgy. Tell me, let's get going. Where's Gary? And I said, Roger, he missed the flight. Yeah, whatever. Come on. Where is he? Seriously, Roger, he missed the flight. Come on. Look, if I get a ticket, I'm going to be really... Roger, look at me. Right? He missed the flight. Oh my God, Mark's going to go mental, right? You can tell. You can tell him, mate. It's your mate. No, you're the tour. So we spent the whole trip back to the hotel. You telling me you're the tour manager? No, kid, no way. You tell. Anyway, so we got back there, and I had to go and tell Mark that Gary's missed the flight. And of course, predictably, Mark's not very happy about that. And so I scurry out of the room as quickly as I can, so it comes to going to the sound check. We get on the bus to go to the sound check, and Mark is fuming, absolutely fuming. And we're all keeping it. Mark's at the back of the bus. We're all at the front of the bus hiding. We pulled up to the gig, and we all get out of the bus, and Jacko said, "Hang on a second, what's that?" And we can hear it like a saxophone in the distance. We get in the hall, and there's Barnacle there before us, sound checking his sax. It's unbelievable. So what had happened, right? He missed the flight. He manages to blag himself, right? He's a charming guy, is Gary. He manages to blag himself on another flight to somewhere else, like I don't know, Dresden or I don't know, another German city, but it's like 3 hours taxi ride away. So it's going to cost him like the GDP of a small African nation to get there, but it doesn't really matter, right? He wants to keep his job. Right. So Gary gets on the flight, put his sax up in the locker. He sat down next to a young lady, and they get chatting, and she says to him, so you play the saxophone? I said, yeah. What kind of music do you play? I've heard of it. He said, yeah, I'm in level 42. She said, I'm going to see them tonight in Kiel.
Oh my God.
So she gave him, the girl he's sitting next to her on the plane, gives him a lift to the gig. And he got there before we did.
That's a charmed life.
Oh my Lord. Gary is a charmed.
And I can't even imagine Mark's reaction at that point too. That would be curious to me. But
well, you just laugh, I mean, you just think, well, you shake your head in disbelief because there are a handful of stories like that where Gary leaves it till the last minute and will stroll in as cool as you like. What's all the fuss about? What?
And there was the picture when you wrote. But first of all, when you wrote that story, it's brilliant the way you wrote it. It really is. But there's a picture of the three of you, Gary, and Mark wearing wigs, and I've always wondered what was the genesis of that.
We just found them in the wardrobe. We saw a board somewhere, and I think that actually there are some adjunct photos to that where we had lipstick on. It was kind of mucking. So we put the wigs on. They're quite long haired wigs, right? We put the wigs on, and I think Annie McCaig decided we need a bit of makeup, so she starts putting makeup in there. So Mark washed it off, but Gary and I went on there with in full makeup. It's pretty hard playing the trumpet with lipstick on, I can tell you. Right?
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, but you know, every trumpet player should experience it at least once, I think.
So the joining of the band, was that just you got in on Gary's word, or did you have to audition? Or
No, I think no. We did the Guaranteed album, so we were
Right.
you know, it came through Gary. And we went down, spent a lovely couple of days down on the Isle of Wight doing the Guaranteed album. And yeah, Mark dropped us as we were going home. Mark dropped us off at the ferry terminal, and just sort of casually said, "How do you guys fancy? We've got a world tour coming up later this year. How do you guys fancy doing it?" You know.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I could squeeze it in.
Nice.
So there was like about 6 years, I think. Probably about 6 or 7 years I did the band, maybe.
Any special memories during the Guaranteed recordings or the tour?
Yeah, I mean, it was lovely. I mean, you know, Mark is he's a really great guy. You know, he's really, you know, he's one of the most talented musicians I've ever worked with. I mean, there are two guys. He's very similar, actually, to J.K. And I'm sorry, Mikey, I've just kind of drifted off your question, but I'll get there in the end.
No, go ahead.
Him and J.K. are very similar insofar as they are just. I think there's something missing in them. And I mean,
You mean that in a good way?
Positive way. Yeah. The idea of not being good at something just doesn't occur to them. Mark and Jay is exactly the same. The idea of not being, you know, I remember once Mike Linda bought Mark a violin for, you know, as a joke for his birthday, right? And Mark was playing. Mark's getting really nice tunes out of it within like a day or something. I mean, you know, the violin, right? It's legendary for its awfulness. I mean, it sounds dreadful for the first 2 years, doesn't it? Not ordinarily, but not when Mark has it, you know. So yeah, the Guaranteed album. It was a really lovely weekend. Actually, a standout for me was Alan Holdsworth. His guitar on I think it's Sekinder Eye.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
I mean, I'd never heard anything like that. I wasn't. I wasn't particularly well schooled in lots of types of music at the time. But when I heard that solo, oh my Lord! I mean, this is just absolutely extraordinary. And then, of course, I went on to have the absolute joy of working with him. You know, he did those 15 or whatever it was nights
in 1990. Yeah,
right.
Whatever it is. There's a plaque up there somewhere.
Smithsonian.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, so he was there. I think. Yeah, that's right. That's right. It was Al Murphy when I first did it. Then Alan Holdsworth, and then Jack after that.
Right.
I mean, what a guy. I mean, what a character. Just like the most down to earth, ordinary Yorkshire bloke you could possibly meet, and yet, like, you know, hailed as a god around the world. You know, incredible technique. That was. He was also a big fan of real ale, Gary. Alan Holt.
Oh, well, we've heard that. Yeah, we've had another guest who made mention of that too.
Right.
Did
your other guest talk about that run at Hammersmith Odeon when Alan bought have you heard the story?
No. It was Annie McCaig said he enjoyed himself an ale every once in a while.
Yes, he did. Yeah, God bless her. He bought the one. We're doing this 18 nights or 15 or however many nights it was at Hammersmith Odeon, and Al said, "I hate this." You know, it's like San Miguel or something on the ride or whatever. So I'm bringing some proper beer in tomorrow. You know, so he brought in one of those poly pins of Young's bitter, and he said, "We can't drink it now. It's got to sit. It's got to settle for a couple of days." You know? So he put it in the top of a cupboard in the dressing room. And every day, is it ready for drinking yet, Al? No, it's not quite. He'd take a little sip of it. No, it's not quite ready yet. Not quite. So this went on for ages. And of course, we did 3 nights on and then 1 night off.
Right.
And then on one of the nights off, like Thunder or something. I think it was Thunder.
Right.
Were playing on one of the nights off, and they polished the lot off. They finished. So he's been selling this for days, making sure it's exactly perfect to drink. And then we came in after the Thunder show, and there was just like a crumpled plastic thing in the corner. They'd consumed all the air and everything. Absolutely everything was gone in this thing.
Oh my God, that's
Well
funny.
I also got to see. I met you, John, actually after the Royal Albert Hall show in October 1994,
Okay,
which was
the last
my,
one.
Yeah, the last one. My first show was the night before at Brighton Dome, and then my second show ever was the Albert Hall, where I got
Okay.
to meet you and Gary and Jacko and I think Mark and Gavin had already left at that point.
Yeah, possibly.
What were your memories there? Because that was the last time you worked with Level 42?
It was, yes, it was.
Yeah. What was the
It
mood
was all-
that day in that tour?
I mean, it was quite sad. You know, there was no big long in my memory. Okay, and I am, borderline senile, but in in the depths of my memory, it was quite a last minute announcement. You know, it wasn't like weeks and weeks of build up to the end of the band. It was, I think, it may even have been at the Albert Hall when it was decided that this was going to be. Because I think we did 2 nights or 3 nights or something maybe there.
Right.
And it was then I think that we found out that this was going to be the end of it.
Yeah, I know you guys had hit Japan first and then came to the UK. And then I think the first gig at that tour was at Portsmouth, where Mark sort of made mention that this was the last tour they were ever going to do. And
Okay.
a lot of my friends were at that gig and they weren't sure if Mark was being, cheeky or
Right.
Yeah,
serious.
Yeah.
But it wound up
Yeah,
being
well-
that last tour.
Yeah, maybe I didn't hear that. I'm not sure. But in my memory, it was quite it was a short-lived. And the announcement was quite close to the end. It didn't go on and on for ages. But no, it was very sad. I was very sad. I loved doing that band. I absolutely loved it. It was so challenging, and the really great bunch of guys. I think the mood generally. Perhaps Mark and Mike were different, right? They've been doing it much longer than me,
Right.
and in fact, they must have had a good reason to call the curtains on it. But for me, it was quite sad because I loved doing it. I really enjoyed it. It was ameliorated by the fact I think I went on tour with Lisa Stansfield. I think the day after.
Oh wow.
So I didn't have much time to sort of sitting at home crying in my tea about it. I had to crack on and do something else.
Yeah, we had a chat with Mike Lindup a few times, and he mentioned, it was just, the record company wasn't supporting them at the time, RCA. Musical things were shifting, grunge and boy bands and that just sort of kind of led to the demise temporarily of Level. But hearing your work in the band and that Guaranteed tour stuff, the Inch-A-Day gig is a favorite of mine. What's the medley? The Antwerp melody, where you guys are just jamming like crazy. It's freaking incredible. If people haven't heard it, check it out on YouTube because it's
I have absolutely zero recollection of that.
I was going to say, how could you even keep track? I mean, this is just one band out of all of these artists you've played with,
Well, you know what, Bob. So rather shamelessly plug. I have written a book. I just need to get my ass in here and get the artwork done and all this kind of thing. And it was. If you look up OCD in the on Wikipedia, there's a photograph of me there, right? And I have every single diary since 1978.
No kidding.
Wow. Right? And these are not Dear Diary. Today I went to the shops. It's not that. This is like my appointment diary. So I have every session I've ever done, every tour I've ever done, every date I've ever done since 1978.
Wow.
And that was a huge help in actually placing all of these things and acting as a sort of reminder of all this stuff that happened. Being
I cannot wait, John, because when I read your stories on your website from you kind of did like about 10 blogs, or I'm like, this is so
Mm.
beautifully written. I almost
Oh, well,
didn't
thank
watch.
you. That's very
Yeah, and very funny, very funny. Like, go ahead, Wayne.
So I was recently was watching Guaranteed live, and for me, I mean, I've been a fan of the band since the early '80s. But when they added you and Barnacle as a touring, to me, it took it up another level. The arrangements
Mm.
were amazing, because I love hearing the songs and with different arrangements.
Yeah.
When you guys did during that tour, the Guarantee tour, you did Mike Lindop tune "The Spirit Is Free."
Mm.
Now, there's no horns on that Mike Lindop Changes album. Were you guys responsible for arranging those parts, or how did
I
that
mean,
work?
yes, we would have been. I mean, it would have either been Gary or me, or perhaps just even collectively. In those days, it's not like this anymore. But in those days, when there was money in the music industry, we would have long rehearsal. We would like rehearse for 3-4 weeks or something, or maybe 3 weeks rehearsal and then a week of production rehearsals. I mean, now you're lucky if you get 3 or 4 days. But then we had a long time, and so you start with a clean slate, and as I mentioned earlier, nobody nobody wants too expensive horn players standing around, just swaying from side to side, right? Let's put something in there. And so that's what we would have done, right? We would have just either somebody would say, well, look, I've got a couple of ideas, I'll jot them out tonight, and I'll bring them in tomorrow, and we'll do. Or often Mark would sing an idea, right? Or Mike would sing an idea, and we'd kind of just develop it from there. And sometimes recording is like that. Sometimes, for me, the best producers are the ones who. I worked a lot with a guy called Tony Visconti, very well known record producer, and he was absolutely brilliant at this, at sort of teasing stuff out. So I guess there are three ways of doing a session, right? Somebody employs an arranger, and I just turn up and they stick the parts in front of me and I play.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is they will send me the tune, right? They'll send me the track, and that's what I'll write out an arrangement, take it into the session, and I'll probably book the guys too. But the other way is you just go there with nothing, with absolutely nothing. And Tony Visconti was brilliant at this. He wouldn't even send you the tune to listen to before you go there, and we'd all be in the room, you'd put it on, and then you stand around and the bravest one drops his trousers and comes up with an idea. Okay. And then you develop it from there in the room. And I absolutely love that. I love that process. You feel it's like really sort of creative way of doing things, right? Somebody comes up with an idea. Oh, I like the beginning, but the end, can we change that? And so that's what would have happened also, I guess, in those rehearsals. Somebody would come up with an idea, and we sort of. So it's a bit of a long-winded answer there, Winston. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I was always curious about that. Whether sometimes you go to a session, and it's like we've written this down, or you guys just do your magic.
Yeah. Sometimes kind of. Largely collaborative. It's probably a mix of all of them, really.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody will take the job of writing it down.
With Visconti, did you work with him and Bowie at one point? Did you guys?
I did, yes. I did the Absolute Beginners.
You did? Okay.
Album. Yeah. In fact, there is a chapter in my book called "David Bowie Makes Me a Brew."
Oh wow, that's
right.
Bowie stories are the best.
Yeah, what an absolute lovely guy. Really, real. I mean, look, I can't say I know him.
Right.
I did a couple of days in the West Side Studios with him, but he's very charming, very nice, and very kind guy.
It's very funny how people who knew him peripherally got so much out of him. We've heard stories from Phil Gould, talking about he had a drink with him as well. Mike Lindop wasn't even a big Bowie fan, but if on his last album, he's got a song called David. That's the most amazing tribute you've ever heard.
Okay.
David. It's a beautiful song. I mean, it's gorgeous. And Mike actually sounds like Bowie a little bit.
He does.
It's bizarre.
It is.
But I'm gonna ask you, and I think Mike, you already said, but your favorite John Thirkell level 42 moments while he's sitting here, and maybe he'll comment on that. I'll start.
When I left.
All right, you got left. So for me, I believe it's you, John, who played on a song called "As Years Go By."
Oh yeah.
The trumpet at the end of that song is gorgeous. It really is, and throughout
Oh,
the song.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And also during the Guaranteed tour, you and Gary on the song Guaranteed would have this kind of heroic horn lift during the coda. And I'm like, first of all, I was like, I wish they put that on the record. I love it. It's like my favorite part of the song. And there's a couple of bootleg versions of that where that is cut out of it. And I'm like, I can't listen to it. I won't ever listen to that live version without it. So I don't know if that's something you and Gary would come up with, or was that written by Mark?
That sounds like a Mark thing, because I can tell you that by the time you get to the end of that tune, I mean, like, we have to take a little break to sluice away all the blood and loose skin. That is like, wow. You're sort of you're digging deep there. So I'm not sure we would have written that.
Right.
It's probably one of Mark's ideas, but
it's a great section. It lifts the song at the end, and I wish it was on the record. But it's one of my favorites. And when you're talking about things that are complicated, what is All Over You? It was on the Forever Now. Do you remember that? It's like a kind of a henpecked.
Henpecked, yeah. I mean, it doesn't stand out specifically. I'm not sure we ever did that live, did we?
You did do it live. Yeah.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah.
The last tour,
Yeah.
part of the finale, encore.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah,
Very good, Mikey. It was
It's that great of a song. That you remember.
It was kind of hot waterish, It was,
Okay.
it was my first 2 gigs, so those are ingrained in my memory.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right.
Oh,
Yeah. No, I have very little recollection of that.
So those are my favorite John Thirkell moments in Level 42.
Well,
I have non-Level 42 moments I'll kiss his butt with in a little bit. But Mikey, do you have anything else? Favorite Level 42?
Well, not a Level 42. Two things.
Okay.
In the tour book for Guaranteed, there's pictures of you and Gary with those white horns. Okay. Were those rentals, or they were given to you? Because I know you're playing. I see you playing it live with Level 42.
I have played the same trumpet my entire career. I still play it to this day. I bought it secondhand in 1976.
Wow.
And I paid £120 for it, and I still play it to this day. I've never found a trumpet that matches it. So, but to get to answering your question, Winston, Gary had this great idea, like, of having white horns. And it is a great idea, because, often you may remember from the live gigs, the lights would go off, bang, and they'd have those little purple ones on there, and they really pop out. It looks great. I mean, it's a great gimmick. So Gary had this idea, and he said, I'm taking one of my tenors up to Herbie Flowers, is the guy who did kind of brass repairs and silver plating and that kind of stuff. And he had it done white, and it looked amazing. So I said, "Oh, great! Oh, I think I'll do that too." And then he told me it was about £800 or something like that, and I only paid £120 for the trumpet. So I went to Halford's, which is a kind of cast store, and I bought 2 tins of white spray rattle. I bought 2 white rattle cans. Sorry, I'll get it. Yeah, and I just sprayed it white. So that's the same.
My God, that's hilarious.
It was silver plated when I bought it, and gradually all the silver clay came off, and then it was just brass. So I sprayed it white, and had it like that for ages. Then when we got over that particular affectation, I painted some nitromores on it and removed it all, and here it is.
Wow!
Still use it to this day.
That's awesome. Yeah, my other thing, as far as what you were playing, is I stumbled across the Swing Out Sister, the lockdown sessions from around 2021.
Okay.
Great stuff there. But I've been telling the guys and some of my friends about you guys do a version of Feel Free by Swing Out.
Oh, yeah.
And then about 4 minutes in, you go into Teen Town by Weather Report, which is amazing. And I'm a big Weather Report fan, and seeing them live, you pretty much had a saxophone, and you had Zawinul doing the kind of brassy bits. But you guys playing that live is one of the best things ever.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's that those are born out of Andy, the keyboard player.
Yeah.
He has the lowest boredom threshold of anyone I've ever met in my life.
He better not listen to our show.
But I think he just gets bored really quickly. And so, if I've often said, when we do a tour, we should record the first show and record the last show, because the two will have very little to do with each other.
Right.
We've done reggae versions of Breakout, and I mean, it's just, and somehow a lot of the tunes we do with Swing Out, they'll morph into something else, to some song from the 60s or something like that. And that's what makes it interesting, right? Makes it a great fun.
That's
if you're on tour for a
music.
long time, it's Anyway. Well, but thank you. Thank you.
John, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today, and an honor. And I think my favorite moment with you has to be, I think I agree with Bob, the end of the tune, As Years Go By. Your work in that is exquisite.
Yep.
Also, the live in Inchday and the Antwerp Melodies. Those guys, the finale, because you guys kind of went into love games and then did some jamming, and then went into a version of Sunshine of Your Love. And it just, the way you got...
Sounds like we were drunk.
No, well, hey... it was fantastic.
Sorry to interrupt. Is there a version of that? I'd quite like to hear that now.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy
such a
of
good
it.
write-up. I'd quite like to hear it.
Shamelessly plugging my YouTube page of 42FM on YouTube.
Okay.
It is. I have it listed. I've done a filtered version of it, but I'm sure Bob can send you the link to it. To the full the Inchday gig.
Wow. I'd like to see whether I was awake. I mean, I have zero recollection of that at all. There you go.
Fantastic set list. And keep up the good work. Another 100 number one hits ahead of you, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I hope so. I'd like to make 40 before I hang up the hooter.
Yeah. Before we kind of get into what you're doing now, John, I wanted to give my favorite John Thirkell non-level 42 moments. And these are not things it wasn't like trumpet gymnastics, but like the 2010, sorry, I'm drawing a blank, the Princess Trust shows from 2010.
Okay.
So you're there with Phil Collins and Mark King, and you're, I think there's a 4-piece horn section, and you're playing a Motown medley. Like, I think it's My Girl and what else is it? Can't Hurry Love, right?
Okay.
And the vibe is so great, and the horns sound so good. And I know it's not the most difficult stuff you've ever played, but it's just, but it just seemed like such a great moment. And it wasn't that long. It doesn't seem that long ago.
Well, thank you.
And then the other one, if you go on, John has people listening. He has a great Instagram page. You should go check it out. But there's one where you're playing "Secret Love," the old Doris Day song.
Oh yes, one of the most beautiful tunes ever written. It's one of my favorite tunes of all time.
Well, and you're on a flugelhorn. What I love about it is, we were talking about very early, John, about I'm not that guy. I can't shine their shoes. But if you listen to John play that, and it's just him with that, it's just gorgeous. To me, that's what trumpet playing is all about, and it's just a stellar version. And
guys, I can do this all day long.
And it's an old song. It's from the 50s or whatever, but it's just gorgeous.
That's a beautiful. I think I was a whole thing about. There are so many beautiful tunes out there that I don't think get the recognition that they deserve, and that's one of them. Another one which we do with the trio is "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." It's such a beautiful song, and nobody gives it any real sort of credence. I absolutely love it. It's so beautiful. It's so beautifully shaped, and anyway, well, there we go.
And John, I know you. About a few weeks ago, you were in Spain, and I guess you have a house in Sierra Nevada or something.
I do, yes. I have a very fortunate enough to have a house up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. About half an hour, 20 minutes out of Granada, something like that.
Right.
Like that. So
So is that where you do your elite music camps? Can you talk about
it
that?
is in absolutely love to. So we bought this. I've got 4 children and 3 grandchildren now, and for me the dream was like I would be the patriarch. Okay, I would sit in this place, and all the kids would be there, and all the partners, and all of the grandkids, and that's I have that sort of mental image, and that's really a dream for me. It hasn't happened yet, but so we bought this house. It's a big old farmhouse, 7 bedrooms, and
Wow.
and it's it's in the middle of the Sierra Nevada National Park. It's really beautiful up there, and so we've got all this space, and I'm chatting to my wife. So what are we going to do with this? Because we don't want to rent it out or any of that. Anyway, so we came up with this idea of music camps. So originally it started with Snake Davis, my friend, the sax player, and we started this horn camp. So basically, we take 8 students out there for a week, and we all live in the house together for a week, and we play the trumpet and the saxophone, and we teach, and we have little jam sessions, and it's just a week of making music, right? And that became, I really enjoy doing that. It's much easier than touring.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I sleep in my own bed. I get to swim every day, and I walk in the mountains. It's fabulous.
Yeah.
So I sort of extended it beyond there. So we now do bass camps. In fact, I have one starting next week out there with Paul Turner, the bass player with Jamiroquai.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And we've also done one with
Yolanda.
With Yolanda Charles. That's right.
She's been on our show too.
Has she?
Yeah, she's great. Yeah.
She's great. She is lovely. And then a guitar camp with Rob Harris from Jamiroquai. I've done vocal camp with a friend of mine, Tom Wakely, who's the vocal coach at RADA, Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. And it's kind of just extended this thing out here. We've done it. I've started gone back to my brass band roots. I did a couple of cornet camps this year with a amazing young player, a guy called Tom Hutchinson. He plays principal cornet with the Corey Band. Corey Band having been the #1 ranked band in the world 10 out of the last 12 years. And so I guess I'm sort of leveraging my address book, right? I've got all of these great musicians, and I can bring them there, and people come, and it's like honestly, I've had people in tears. I can't believe it. That if you play the guitar and you're a big fan of Jamiroquai, I can't believe it. I'm here sitting at the dinner table every night with one of my idols. It is the most magical thing, and I really love doing it. I absolutely adore it. So
do you have to be a certain level player to even think about going, or could you be like a novice? I'm just trying to get better, or do you have to be like John Thirkell to show up?
Yeah, well, I think you don't need to be novice. If you're only playing the guitar for 6 weeks, then you're probably wasting your money, right? But you don't have to be a brilliant guitarist at all. Okay. I guess I don't know whether this means anything to you guys in the States, but grade 5 is usually the sort of standard. So it's just okay, really. You don't need to be because the week is like a mix of group stuff and one-to-one lessons. So the one-to-one stuff is entirely geared towards wherever you are in the sort of pantheon, right? Mm-hmm. And then in the group stuff, well, the better players, they kind of pull the not so good. It's always good to play with people better than yourself, always, right? Because it's kind of you get pulled along in their wake. We have people of all kind of abilities, and we have people from all over the world. And on the base camp next week, Bell is coming from Brazil. We have Zing from Hong Kong. We have 2 guys, one from Belgium, one from Holland. You have guys from all over the world coming in. It's really lovely.
That sounds amazing.
So, John, kind of looking ahead now. As a player, as a working in the music business, what are your goals, if you have any left? You've had such an accomplished career. What do you want to do next or last?
Crikey. That's a pretty long list of goals. Primarily is to get better, to keep, there's still, it's really lovely to sit here when you guys saying, really nice things about me, but you don't stand here in this practice room every day with me, right? And hear the nonsense, the shit that comes out at the end sometimes. Right? There are still lots of things I need to get together on the trumpet. So I practice at least an hour every day. I never miss a day. I haven't missed a day for probably 10 years. No, I never miss a day.
Wow.
So that's my primary driver. We were visiting friends in Canterbury, and I disappeared for an hour to the bottom of their garden with a trumpet and a mute, and then did my daily stuff.
Right. Is there an artist you've never worked with that you'd love to work with?
Yeah, there are two, but my chances are very slim.
I'm sure.
Prince, I would love to have played with Prince, right? I got close. I supported him. I played with a band called the Pasadenas, and we supported Prince on his British tour in, I can't remember when, 1876, long time ago. And the other one, Frank Zappa. That is the challenge above all challenges, right? I think I would have loved to have done that, but sadly, I have very little chance of achieving either of those ambitions, right? But for now, it's just getting better. I would love to. I just before COVID, I started doing a one-man show called "Blown It," right, and which will be the title of the book.
All
and
right.
it's this idea of you don't know what he looks like, but chances are you will have heard him on something or other, right? And basically the show is it's kind of a bunch of I play some tunes and tell some stories. That's the top and bottom of it, and I really enjoyed doing that. I met some really lovely people out there, and so for 2026, that's one of my goals for 2026 is to resurrect that. But COVID put pay to it. Actually, I only did a handful of shows, and then we were all masked up and we couldn't go out and stuff. So that's one other thing, yeah. And Tete-A-Tete, I think I'm hoping there's going to be a tour next year. It's the 40th anniversary of that first album. It's Better to Travel with Breakout. So 40th anniversary. It's unbelievable, isn't it? 40 years. I mean,
it's. I
was looking at the album the other day, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even recognize that. I mean, you were on it. Gary's on it. Jacko's on it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a guy who I remember from Light of the World, Nat Augustin, who was on that.
Oh, yes. Nat Augustin. Yeah, I toured with Nat. I did Rick Astley's world tour in '89, and Nat was the guitarist, actually. But was he playing the trombone or the guitar on that album?
Well, it doesn't say. I know him as a because he was in Light of the World, and I knew him as a trombone player.
Right,
but
yeah.
I think on that first Swing Out, they credit the musicians, but not what they did.
Yeah, that's probably for the best, right?
Well, I mean, you think they'd at least say trumpet,
it wasn't
guitar,
legal, no.
Right?
Yeah, Nat played guitar on the Rick Astley world tour. I think he might have done a couple of tunes. He may have done a couple of tunes on the trombone. I don't quite remember.
Okay,
I was going to say, John, like when your book comes out, you're doing a tour. Please come back. We'd love to have you.
that book sounds amazing.
It does sound amazing.
Yeah, you know what? It's really interesting when you sit down to do something like that. I've been telling a lot of these stories. All of my, you may tell them. You may be able to tell. I don't mind a chat.
Right.
And I had a couple of drinks. You can't shut me off. You're going to drag me off.
Right.
But when I actually sat down to do it, to put it in words, that I realized I've been telling a lot of these stories entirely in the wrong context, in the wrong order. When I left college, I went on the QE2. I'd spent I'd completely forgotten. I went on the QE2 twice. I came off, and then I went back on it, and I'd completely forgotten that. It's only by looking through my diaries that all somehow sort of melded into one. So it's quite a salutary experience.
Yeah.
Looking back on all this stuff, but I had a kind of propensity for getting into all kinds of ridiculous. I was kidnapped by the Japanese mafia, and I've been shot at in the Philippines, set fire to a hotel accidentally, and I hastened to add all that. Somehow, I seem to end up in the middle of chaos. Somehow.
Those are real stories.
Those are real stories.
Oh my God!
I was kidnapped by the Japanese mafia.
All right, so whatever's going on with this book, you need to hurry up and finish it because I need to read these stories.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get it out as soon as I get I've got to get into gear. The book is written. It's all of the typesetting stuff and all the kind of
right.
Because I don't want to get a publisher. I'd rather publish it myself. As in music, I've always believed that ownership is king. And I don't think a publisher. Look, it's probably going to sell. upwards of a dozen copies. Right? So I don't think a publisher.
I
Really
doubt
don't
that.
think a publisher is going to make any difference to that. So
Right,
I'd rather
right.
do it myself.
Well, you got 3 sales right here, and I know a lot of
Yeah.
No, they'll
42
be
fans.
complimentary, guys. They'll be complimentary.
Yeah. Well, we can't wait for that to come out. You got 3 buyers
Absolutely.
right here, so now you only need 9. But this has been a great quote blow by blow start, John, to our
I
conversation.
see what you did there. I see what
I
you
did?
did there, Bob. Yeah,
that is weird. What's up? His jokes
Yeah,
are
that's
lame.
why you're
everybody.
earning the big bucks.
I don't think so. But again, folks, if you want to, first of all, those music camps, you can learn more about them at elitemusiccamps.com or go to johnnythirkell.com. And John's Instagram page is amazing. It's this has been a real treat, John and Johnny. It's been
Yes, indeed.
and
Guys, it's been looking. I'm happy to rock up and have my ego stroked for an hour anytime you like. Because I'm gonna go back to the house and get into trouble for leaving the loo seat up. So
yeah, I know.
back to the real world. Right?
It's still Sunday night there, so we're gonna let you go. Thank you so much, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
for
it's
joining
been
us.
a real pleasure, guys. Thank you
John.
so much. It's been a real pleasure.
All right, and for Winston Walker, Mikey Payne, I'm Bob Considine. We're leaving you now, but we'll wait to return. See you next time, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
But it's time to turn it on whenever you can turn it on. You know that